Father, as we approach you today, we want to understand what you've told us about the cherub and how they reflect who you are. And Lord, you go into detail so that we might consider and think and imagine what they're like, so that it might cause in us to praise you and to honor you because of it. And Lord, we need your kind of insight. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we are in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 10. Remember that we know about the cherub, and this is, again, the verse about their faces. And we're going to start with Ann over there. Ezekiel 1:10, as for the form of their faces, each has the face of a man, all four had the face of a lion, and the other on the right, and the face of the bull on the left, and all four have the face of an eagle.
Wow.
Now, they don't have four heads, they have four faces, which is kind of... What else do you learn from these?
Does it say? Does it say anything about one head? It implies that, but I don't know that it says that.
Well, as we go through, we'll figure out, we'll ask that at the end.
So they had different faces?
Yeah.
Okay. Even though there was four heads with different faces.
No, all four heads are the same.
Well, the thing is that's what he's saying, that do they really have four heads or do they have four faces?
Okay.
But it tends to be they have four faces. It means that there's not four heads.
Right.
So what are the different faces?
Each had the face of a man.
Yep.
Bull.
How many of them are there described that we talked about last week? Do you remember?
Four.
Four. Yep. And the face of a bull. What was the only one that's different is the bull one? Okay, it describes it in Revelation as what?
A lamb or ox?
Calf.
Okay.
Depends on how you... And then also in another place in Ezekiel, it calls it what? Same reference. Do you remember that? Cherub.
Okay.
So this must be its unique face.
Wait, bull was it changed for cherub? I thought it was man was it changed for cherub. No, it was bull. Okay.
Yep. This is the...
Cherub.
What?
Describing a cherub.
In 10:14 is where it's at. What were we saying? See, this is the verse right here. It's and each have four faces. The first face, the face of a cherub. The second face, the face of a man. So that's the... What else? What else can we learn from this one? Anything more? Why do they have an eagle face? Any ideas? Any imagination on that? Or lion? Or...
They're describing the characteristics. Lions have certain characteristics, so it's different from an eagle. It's different from
So,
a bull.
what would you guess? Okay, what does a lion normally represent?
The king of the forest, so this is powerful.
Yeah. What about an eagle?
Eagle has strength.
Yeah, it's not like the head of a chicken or something. It's a little different. Right, it's not the head of a... So an eagle is a very regal, the top of the category of birds.
Great eyesight.
Okay? And the thing is that high-flying type of a thing.
Right.
The face of a bull, okay, that would be like domesticated animal.
Right. Or
kind of, right? Yeah. Strength.
Yeah.
Man.
Created being of God. I don't know.
The highest.
Yeah.
The intellectual type of a thing. So.
Right.
Yeah, Amy?
I was just thinking this reminds me of in ancient Egypt, they often, most of their gods and people like that all had interesting animal-like faces. Like this was not abnormal to them, I don't think, at all. Or if it was, or if they took from something like this, like ancient Egypt, that's most of their people are like, oh, he has to have a dog, and oh, this one has a head of this. And
yeah. Or they reverse them, too.
But I'm just saying this is kind of what it reminds me of is like, I just picture the little ancient Egyptian, like their gods of this, and god of that, and god of this. They all had these like animal type faces.
Right, and the thing
Not
is,
all of them, but a lot of them had, this would have been common, I think, for them.
I mean, maybe it's a reflection because it somehow is made known outside of that, but I don't know.
I think it's just, I mean, all the false worship, I think, is demonically inspired.
Yeah,
So they're going to tend towards all that.
yeah,
They know that. They lead people to do all that stuff and make the art or
right.
the gods or whatever.
Amy, verse 11, such were their faces, their wings were spread out above, each had two touching another being and two covering their bodies.
Well, it's just saying, okay, this is the faces they had, so we already covered those.
Yeah,
Their wings were spread above, each had two touching another. What is being? Is it actually in there or just another?
another.
So they had two touched, two covering their bodies, so they had two overhead, were spread out above. I mean, this only talks about 4, which we've heard they say there's 6.
Right, that's the seraphim who describe it in Isaiah 6. But again, remember, he's just seeing certain parts of it, and the ones that are missing is the ones covering their face.
Okay. So they pretty much have, this is just their wings. They have
Yeah.
two that go up, and they have 2 that cover their bodies, whether that's more down or...
Yeah, so it's a rather interesting look. Again, I mean, the question is, why is God telling us? He just wants to stir our thoughts about the reality of this place. So, Elisha, verse 12, and each went straight forward. Wherever the Spirit was about to go, they would go without turning as they went.
Okay, so the Spirit led them wherever they had to go.
What Spirit?
The Spirit of the Lord.
With a small s.
Oh, right.
No. This.
They're right.
We're just giving you the idea is that it could be the Spirit of the Lord. The difficulty is that as it's going to describe later. But then, what are the options that you have with Spirit? So it can't be just describing them because it's describing something moving with them, right?
Okay.
It says wherever the Spirit, like
an angel? Like I don't know.
yeah, it does. It seems to be. I think Ruach. It seems this is my best is that they have this idea of somehow it's like. You know how you see in slow motion where something moves and then the tail follows it? It almost seems like in reverse. It kind of moves and then the cherub moves with it. It's kind of like something about it. I don't know if it's its personality. That would be an option. I don't know if it's I don't think it's the Holy Spirit because of what it'll tell us later because the Holy Spirit, first off, isn't visible like in spirit form. So part of it, the whole Spirit is invisible. So this is something else. It doesn't seem to be like wind. It seemed to be some sort of thing. What about the way they moved?
You don't think it could be, you don't think it's talking about the wind?
That's why I think it's more, and this is the hard part, this doesn't fit into an easy category of Ruach, or the idea of, it's almost like, I'd picture like an outline type of a thing, and then it moves first, and then the being moves.
It's like the shadow that goes before it.
Yeah. That's what it seems like. It says it would go without turning as it went. So what does that mean, Alicia?
That means they only go straight. Like they're not going. Kind of like if you had like your hand on somebody's head, like you would direct them. They would turn their neck.
So what kind of flying thing would picture this? So let's say, for instance, like normally like a bird might twist or move, right? Okay. What is this different?
I don't know.
So this is what you know how a hummingbird hovers.
I'm sorry.
Like a hummingbird hovers. So it's more like hovering. So what happens is it doesn't turn to move. It just hovers at a certain point and moves.
This other face when One
It-
face is looking this way. so
It doesn't need any faces because it's got eyes all over the place.
I know, but he doesn't have to turn his head because he's got eyes everywhere. So what's the point? And then they all just go that direction.
Yeah, all it does is it says all it's doing is telling you that it doesn't move around as it moves. It just stays stationary and it hovers in the same direction.
Yeah, wherever the Spirit's telling it to move, that's where it's going.
Yeah. All right. Paul, verse 13. In the midst of the living being, there is something that looked like burning coals of fire, like torches darting back and forth among the living beings. The fire was bright, and the lightning was flashing from the fire. Got that?
Okay, so hang on a second.
Hang on.
So in the midst of the living beings. Okay, so there are these four beings. They're up there doing their thing. Okay, in the middle of them,
Yeah.
something that looked like burning coals of fire. So, I mean, they could have just had, like, their iPhones on. Who knows? Like, they have no idea how to describe it. It looks like something that's like fire. Like torches darting back and forth among living beings. So, I don't know if they're playing with laser pointers or...
So this coals of fire has something to do because it's going to be scooped up later on and used for judgment. Okay?
Okay, so something that looked like burning coals of fire, like torches darting back and forth among the living beings.
I mean, it almost seems like some sort of kind of energy, kind of response. So just what you do is it's almost like electrical charges. It's very bright and flashes of lightning.
Torches darting back and forth among the living beings. So they're connected to this. You know,
Associated with it.
well, it's going back and forth between them.
Yeah, between them, yeah.
Yeah, so they're...
You know how like electricity like jumping between objects or whatnot? Man, we're just imagining this thing. This is really...
I mean, I've seen Star Wars, I can fix that. Okay, so the fire was bright, and the lightning was flashing from the fire. I mean, it does almost like the idea, like the lightning, if he was trying to describe some sort of energy, how you said it, that
Yep.
seems to fit,
Yep.
yeah, all right.
Okay?
All right.
Dave, verse 14, and the living beings ran to and fro like lightning, bolts of lightning.
They were moving extremely quick.
Yep.
Let me float this idea. You can shoot it down if you want. If I recall, someplace, lightning, when it strikes, the bolt is actually, something's already happening and the bolt is connecting back to something. So something has happened, and then it connects back. So if we're using the analogy of lightning, God has already done something and it's connecting. We see the action of it connecting to what he's done or what is happening
With the coals, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. The coals seem to do...
Or it's just the action of all the stuff. This has already happened. God is just displaying action happening that was theoretically unseen. Like with lightning, you don't see it
Right, yeah.
after it's already,
Right.
wherever the energy is done at the bottom, it connects back up to the clouds. So it's like it's been completed, you're just seeing what happened. Or is that...
I think it has some sort of display of power that's taking place connected to the coals, which are the place of worship that we're going to find out. But they're kind of moving around really quick. So this is not like they're stationary. They're not like statues. So, all right, Sue, let's see if we can find out less. I mean, or more. Or find out how little we know, right? Now, as I looked at the living beings, behold, there was... Yeah, you got this one. There was one wheel on the earth beside the living beings for each of the four of them.
Okay, there were 4 wheels. I have no idea what the wheels represent. on the earth.
Yes. So what happens? They're beside the living beings. Okay, that's what we know. They're beside them.
Yes.
They're near them. They're not attached to them, but they're near them. Okay, and that each of them have a wheel near it. Okay, we're going to find out that it almost looks like a big chariot throne type of a thing. We'll see how this. Susie, verse 16, the appearance of the wheels and their workmanship is like the sparkling barrel, and all four of them had the same form, their appearance and workmanship being as if one wheel were within the another.
It was, the NIV says it's like a sparkling, like a topaz. So,
You got that picture in your mind?
no, I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't know either. Paul could give us an idea.
So beryl is like the root specimen of emerald. So if something's too light, it's green beryl. If it's darker, it's emerald.
Okay.
So there might be more than one color of beryl.
Yeah.
But we would assume that it's green unless there's a reason.
So that's what it looked like, sparkling. Tell us about the wheel within a wheel. What's a wheel within a wheel?
I don't know, chandelier.
How about you guys see a gyroscope? That's probably what it look. That's what I'm guessing. Okay, wheel within a wheel because it spins in the opposite direction. Doesn't spin in.
Inside each other.
Yeah, inside of each other. And they're all the same looking wheels. Okay? Dan, whenever they moved in any of their four direction without turning as they moved.
Okay, so is this thing connected back to the four living creatures movements?
It could connect to, this seems to be the movement of the wheels.
Do they coincide with the,
Yeah.
since the sparks and the flash, I don't know if it's a judgment or righteousness or part of the graphics and poured out.
Yeah.
There's something to do with the moving around.
Yeah, they're all,
Connected to this, I mean, the full wheel. I could jump and say a stretch, oh, the covers for the angels will make the four wheels. I don't say that.
no, just,
It's, or the, what's that, after the stupid, the watchmaker or something thing, about, the guy's basically a watchmaker and he like the wheels and the time clock and all this, I heard of
Yeah.
Jewish thing.
Sounds like an interesting theory.
It's bizarre. It's weird.
we'll find out more as we go, because
But it
Jay,
sounds like it just moves with them.
yeah, it just moves with them. Jay? As for their rims, they were, see, they had rims. Look at them. It's like they were lofty and awesome. And their rims, of all four of them, were full of eyes around about.
Oh, why not? Yeah, not only do they got eyes everywhere, so does their wheels.
That's right. So their wheel, and then there's a rim around the wheel. And
So that makes these wheels alive.
yep. And they're lofty and awesome. What's that mean?
They're mighty and
Yeah.
cool.
They're impressive, aren't they?
Yeah.
So this is the first impressive rims, that they have. They just have it on their cars. They have it on
Yeah.
They have a Segway.
what? Segway.
Oh,
Yes.
Loading segways, so I got a turn.
Saying Segway. got
Yep.
a wheel
Yeah,
thing going
the
on.
Segway of fire. Yeah.
All right, Jay Ewing,
Yeah, like,
Ezekiel 1:19. Whenever the living being moves, the wheels move with him, and wherever the living beings rose from the earth, the wheels rose up also.
They're just, well, they're not connected, but they are connected.
Yeah.
So like, for some reason, before had thought that they were connected. There was a true connection, but this just seems to indicate, because they're said they're beside them, that there's just some.
Symmetry, right?
Well, I mean, I've tried to picture what these wheels look like too, but it's you can't.
Yeah.
Just because you like a wheel set up like that could like rotate and it could go any direction it wanted to.
Yeah.
Without any effort.
Right. It's kind of like a caster almost,
Yeah.
but better than that.
Yeah, like
What's a
a
caster?
super high tech
Like a wheel for.
You know,
Down the bottom there.
yeah, like it's round.
Oh,
They have round wheel casters, but if you had two directions, they actually have cars that they try to make now that'll turn sideways and shift them. I mean, they should do some of this. I mean, it actually says, this may be a form of flight, because everything that man makes, they always just duplicate it from nature anyways.
If you could patent this, you'd be Elon Musk.
Yes. There you go.
He's got a patent on it.
All right. Kim, verse 20, wherever the spear was about to go, they would go in that direction, and the wheels rose close beside them, for the spirit of the living being was in the wheels.
I should have given that one to Alicia.
Yeah, I love it. I'll take one for
This is wheel number 2, same as... Any extra insight into that one, Kim?
Well, the spirit of these living creatures was in the wheels, so the spirit just went wherever these living creatures went, which meant the wheels just
We're connected.
Yeah, they were connected. They just followed them.
Yeah,
Follow the living creatures.
It's kind of like it was part of, I don't know, it like connected in their mental, their generally in their being, like their aura. Let's say, for instance, they had a certain sphere, say, for instance. What would happen is then this whole thing would go with it. It's kind of like a halo, but a whole body version. Okay? And whatever the thing moved, it was interconnected, but not physically connected.
You get the impression that these wheels are alive. I mean, they got eyes. I mean, they're either, or they're like super advanced prosthesis,
Yeah.
Because they have it says the spirit.
I mean, we don't have anything that even looks like this. We don't have any being that has this kind of capacity, period. And so that's why we don't have a simile to compare it with.
Yeah, it's hard to get your mind around
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, Dave?
The spirit of the living beings with the wheels means that they're controlling them?
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying? That they're in control of what's happening with the wheels and they're moving so harmoniously together as one?
It's almost like they mentally or some sort of way in which controlling the thing without any,
being attached to it.
Yeah, without being attached. So.
So do we know, is it the same size as them or is it bigger than them?
We don't know.
It doesn't really say. It just
Hey,
says.
Ezekiel.
I mean, we're getting so many.
The drawing or something.
Yeah, where the drawing?
All right, maybe Ann will tell us about it.
Oh, yeah, right.
Ezekiel 1:21. Whenever those went, these went. And whenever those stood still, these stood still. And whenever those rose from the earth, the wheels rose close beside them, for the spirit of the living being was in the wheels.
Oh, it's like Dr. Seuss.
Yes.
The wheels were with the cherubs, wherever they went.
Yeah, they were, wherever, they were just interconnected.
Right, they're interconnected, yeah.
It's almost like a tail without connection. That it seems that Ezekiel's describing. Remember, God's informing Ezekiel so that he could tell us, and he's just using whatever words he can, what God has given him to explain it. So, but yeah, it just shows you that they're just interconnected with this. Why do you think God's telling us all this detail?
That's the question I was going to ask you.
I asked you first, so you have to have the answer. That was a boomerang question, right?
I mean, that's a good question. It's like, why is God telling his people this? So we can see, have something to look forward to, or we can see the power of the cherubs, or, the eyes. seems to me the eyes and the wheels they're able to see anything. There's nothing that can escape the eyes. Nothing on this earth, or in heaven.
So this great detail, let me ask it a different way. All this great detail, all this intricacy of things that are really hard to understand, what does this tell you about who God is?
He's unfathomable.
Yeah, he's allowing us to see what he's done.
Right.
And it should make us long for heaven and delight to realize if God could do this, okay, what else can he? Not,
right.
He can't do nothing. Exactly. The thing is that, how many other unforeseen things will we be experiencing when we're in his presence? If he is so detailed about it, it should excite us for heaven too, right? This is the detail. The thing is, this is not, this is somebody explaining what it looks like. This is not somebody hoping to figure out something. This is an explanation. Mm-hmm. So this is a real thing, real beings that we know little or nothing about besides what they tell us. Yeah.
So I think verse 18, it says, as for the rims, they were lofty and awesome. Like, the word lofty, that could have a size component to it, right? Like, they could be big, they could be high. Like, yeah, so they could keep the sheriff could be this big, and the things could be like 3 times as tall or something.
Yeah.
Well, he seems to draw a comparison with that.
I think this is all pretty big because, it's designed to be impressive. It's not like I said last week, a little fat, cherub and tiny little wheels and, this is not like, little wheels on the side of a bicycle or something, training wheels, yeah. So this is pretty, it's impressive to see what is all going on. Amy, verse 22, now over the heads of the living beings there was something like an expanse, like the awesome gleam of crystal spread out over their heads.
Well, I was reading some of the earlier verses, and this reminds me, in verse 4 it says, as I looked, behold, a storm wind was coming from the north, a great cloud with fire flashing forth continually, and a bright light around it, and its midst something like glowing metal in the midst of a fire, and within it were these figures. So there's like this like a clump of, obviously the four of them, it seems like they are like all together.
Yeah.
There's the wheels, they're coming down in this cloud, storm, wind, fire, and on top of that moving thing that was moving wherever it wants to on earth and apparently moving towards him,
yeah.
It was also like an expansive kind of thing of like the sky or like a...
Like this is the background, yeah.
Yeah, like there's something above them.
Yeah.
It's really gleaming. Gleaming crystal is bright and shiny, and it's over their heads. So it's like he's describing this picture that he's seen of this thing coming. He's describing all the people, but he's also describing like the expanse, the crystal, and then we've got all this, the wheels, and the thing seems to almost like some kind of weird flying contraption connected with these spirits, and it's like sounds like a big like merry-go-round or something, like a big...
It's a throne is what it is.
Yes, well, and then there's that too,
it's
like we know other things about
portable throne type of a thing, like a moving thing.
I feel like it has this like, it's
not
moves
stuck
around, and it's, like you were kind of asking Anne, like why is he telling all of this? I think it really, for me, it just reminds me of God's utter control and ability to do anything he wants on earth at any point in time. He has these people who are literally, these creatures are just around, waiting for the leading to go wherever they need to, and they just, we don't see them, but they're around. It's like, look at what I have that you can't, I think he often shows us that, like, when, like, saving Israel, he opened their eyes and they saw all the armies of God around them. Like, it's just like there's all these things we don't see. Ezekiel got to see this, but it's still around just because we can't see it.
Right.
Like, I'm sure if God really opened our eyes, we might look up in the sky and there's this huge thing that's just visible. I think it reminds me too, like when he comes back, we'll all see him.
Yeah.
Like, so if he can just come down and everyone can see him, I think this expanse cloud, gleaming crystally thing is there. We just don't notice it, and eventually he'll allow everyone to see all this control and stuff that he actually, like, oh, he's actually watching. Like, he can see us. His creatures can work and move and go and.
Pretty impressive, isn't it? All right, Alicia, we got back to you. It says, under the expanse of their wings were stretched out straight, one toward the other. Each one also had 2 wings covering its body on one side of the other.
Okay, so. Alright, so 2 of their wings are straight out. One toward the other. Okay, so they're pointing at each other. And 2 wings are covering its body, one on each side. And on the other. I don't know, and on the other.
It just seems like there's a gap between their wings.
Okay.
They're not overlapping. That's as much as I got.
Well, I'm going to go with that. That sounds good to me.
All right, Paul, 24. And I also heard the sound of their wings, like the sound of an abundant water as they went. Like this, you should know this, like the voice of Almighty, the Almighty. A sound of tumult, like the sound of an army camp. Wherever they stood still, they dropped their wings.
I mean, this just, I think this brings out why everyone kind of freaked out whenever they saw an angel, you know?
Not even this one. I mean, just the normal one.
Sure. You know, they got the light thing going on too, but...
Yeah. So what's the sound?
You know, it seems like, you know, Ezekiel's got it in full color. You know, the fact that he can hear it, you know, he's not just watching it.
Yeah, this is...
Hear it, it's almost like he's there in some capacity, experiencing all 5 senses. But I also heard the sound of their wings, like the sound of abundant waters. I mean, I just picture standing next to a waterfall.
Yep.
You know, or a helicopter. You know, if it's...
Jet engine.
You know.
Yep.
As they went. So maybe when they were standing still, you know.
It was quieter. So what would be the voice? Why does it say that, like the voice of the Almighty?
I mean, I think, you know, God were thundering down from, you know, the heavens.
So this is, you know, how we say this is our inside voice. They have the outside voice. This is the Almighty voice.
Yeah, this is like the gentle whispering in the storm.
No, this is like thunder and lightning scale.
Yeah, this is like.
So this is how loud they are. Okay, and this is one of those verses that I see that the audience of God's drama and display is bigger than us, because who's the only one who knows this?
Angels and God.
And maybe a prophet.
Maybe a prophet.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
So this is really to explain. They would know what that is.
Yeah, like when would we? I'm trying to think of an example in Scripture where God spoke clearly, but like was forthright, you know, strong. Like most of his speaking from heaven, like behold.
Remember on the mountain
with Moses?
Sinai. Remember, because the thing is, they told him to stop doing it because.
So was it the voice, or was it like the whole display? Because there was thunder and lightning. And
yeah, but I think there was a voice too, because
So then that.
Because they asked them not.
We're scared to death. Please don't do it.
Don't speak to us anymore. Yeah. Could you send somebody like us so we can understand? And that's.
Yeah. So then a sound of tone, like the sound of an army camp.
Yeah.
I mean, I just picture like you know, I don't know, 50,000 people in a.
Like football. Yeah.
I don't know how many people it holds, but it's something like that. So I mean, that's, you know, they got the you know, thing going on, the chanting or the stomping.
Yeah.
You know, or like if you watch The Lord of the Rings, or they've got the armies all lined up, or any other like war movie when they're doing this. And it says whenever they stood still, they dropped their wings. So apparently their wings might have been heavy.
Well, they move it up when they take off, and they put it down. Yeah.
They drop them.
Yeah.
Just like a bird would.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's pretty wild. You know?
Yes.
We can ride them in heaven.
I don't know.
Do you think there'll be a line?
Just don't poke their eyes out.
Yeah.
So if there's only 4 of them, unless they rotate, unless there's like 100 and they just go forward.
So is it the wings that are moving then, or the wheels?
Yes, yeah. It seems like they're interconnected. I'm not even sure if the wings are moving them or if it just pictures them moving or not. Because they don't use always the wings for. It says with 2 wings they move, but this one gives the impression that the wings are the part that is causing them to move. Dave, and there was a voice from above the expanse that was over their heads. Whenever they stood still, they dropped their wings.
Obviously, God's voice is above the expanse.
Yep.
Connected to the previous verse. And again, it mentions that it dropped their wings, which means, I guess they could be stationary.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they can, as opposed to the hummingbird, they don't need to move their wings. They can stay stationary in one spot wherever they move to. They can just stay in that same spot.
Yeah. Somehow the voice is with them standing still. So I don't know if something says, something is spoken, or when they stood still.
So, this, I don't know about you, but this makes it seem much more interesting what's going on up there than down here sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, man, this kind of stuff's going on all around us. There's wheels, there's creatures, big flying thunder sounds. Like, where is this going on?
Yeah, Dan.
Still on the throne area.
This is that whole throne area.
So that would be, since God's above them in his chair, the voice coming down above them.
Yeah. Well, he's in the midst of it. Yeah, but it's what you're going to find out too is that what this whole Ezekiel vision's picturing. Do you know what it's all related to?
The movement of the planets and the solar systems.
No, what happens is that God's glory is leaving the temple. So God's association with the temple, he's leaving. And then judgment's going to come upon. The absence of God's presence means the presence of judgment is about to come. And so the thing is, they are losing out on God's presence. So it's kind of reverse. This is what God's presence is like, even though they couldn't see it all in the temple. But this is picturing him leaving. You'll see in a minute as it goes through this.
Closing of the door or something like that.
The threshold. Going to the threshold. We'll get there. 26. Now above the expanse there was above the expanse there was over their heads there was something resembling a throne of lapis lazuli in appearance, and on that which resembled a throne high up was a figure with the appearance of a man.
So lapis lazuli is like a royal blue colored stone with gold specks.
Okay, there you go, Sue.
Okay, so over their heads, there was a throne or something that resembled it.
Right. So you have a throne scene, and they're underneath. And you see them underneath. There's a throne above scene, and then coals of fire that's underneath. Okay? And who is up on this throne?
Christ?
Somebody pictured like a man. So that might be Christ. Yep. Picture of, in the Old Testament, the angel of the Lord, but there's this person on the throne. Okay? Susie, it says, then I noticed from the appearance of his loins and upward something like glowing metal. Well, this is more, this doesn't tell us about the angels, but basically this is about God. But it says the appearance of loins upward, there was something glowing metal that looked like fire around within. In the appearance of his loins and downward, I saw like fire, and there is a radiance around him.
They're talking Christ, or that he was brilliant, like bright.
Yep.
It looked like fire.
So,
That's it.
yep. So there's just this figure on there. We're going to get in 28. In the appearance of the rainbow in the cloud on a rainy day, so was the appearance surrounding radiance. Such was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of Yahweh. And when I saw it, I fell on my face and heard a voice speaking. Dan.
Okay. Well, the rainbow, clouds, rain gate.
Yep.
It's radiance. Not just a rainbow, it's like a lot. Very real intense. Appearance likeness to glory, more intense than I could even describe,
yep.
Probably. And I saw face and heard the voice speaking. It's just this happened to me. It's his face and
yeah. So this is picturing God displaying Himself as a nod, and the thing is that and hearing the voice speaking. So worship, honor, a listening ear projected in these word pictures. So, all right, let's go to. That was easy. Let's go to Ezekiel 10. See if we can gather a few more nuggets.
So real quick, so just back to the overview. This is like they're hovering over the temple, is what you're saying, right? The wheels, because the wheel is touching the earth.
Yeah. So what it is, it's going to picture. If you look, this will be a good read. If you want to picture it, is that you see these movements taking place. So Ezekiel's going to pronounce judgment. Okay. So he sees the vision in chapter 1. He points out the judgment in chapter 2, his calling and telling them they are wicked people and they're going to be judged. And so what you see is through this is the glory of the Lord moves out of the temple to the threshold. Then it moves from the threshold of the temple. Then it moves up in the air. And then it moves out toward the gate. And then it leaves. And then judgment comes.
So it's almost like the temple is the throne room subsidiary.
Yeah.
And they're standing over it because the cherub are close to it because that's where God's presence is.
Yeah.
And then that's how they're going to go back up to heaven and they're going to go back home.
Right. They're just his presence is leaving.
His presence is leaving.
So this is the mirror image of that presence. Like in heaven, this is the...
But it's still there at the time that Ezekiel was talking about, Ezekiel 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's seeing it. He's in exile. He's not at the temple.
Right. So,
but in the vision, he's seeing it.
But we could say that where it's touching,
yeah.
the wheels are touching is in Jerusalem. In
yeah.
temple. Because that's the throne room. That's where the picture
yeah.
that's where God's presence is. Okay.
So, in some way, this is what's happening or being conveyed.
Yeah.
So, Jay Walker. Then I looked, and behold, in the expanse there was over the head of the cherub. See, we found out they're cherub, right? Something like sapphire stones in appearance. Blue or yellow. Resembling a throne appeared above them. So we pick up the same scene, right? What do we see?
Throne above them, just like the red.
Yep. And so you have above the cherub is this throne. And so think of it as a chariot throne. The cherub are below, and then the throne is above.
Above them,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the imagery.
Yeah.
Verse 2, Jay.
It's kind of hard because, we don't just, a throne in a palace is like up on a raised platform. It's sitting on something. This is just kind of like floating up there.
Yeah, it is. God doesn't need, substance. He can float on nothing, so he made nothing. Says he spoke to the man clothed in the linen. Now this is kind of interesting, and said, enter between the whirling wheels and the cherub and fill your hands with coals of fire from between the cherub and scatter them over the city. And he entered into my sight.
So is the man in linen, is that Ezekiel?
So what options do we have? So we have some options. Could be Ezekiel. It could be just a messenger of God. Could be another scribe. Okay. The difficulty is Ezekiel is called just the Son of Man, but it gives the impression he's pronouncing the judgment. But I don't know. The word also, to give you an idea of the word cherub, in Akkadian, it means to intercede, be gracious, and a blessing. And cherub seem to describe a servant worshippers who guard the tree of life. This depicts the throne of God. But he spoke, so this is some form of judgment that's taking place.
But the last, it says, and he entered in my sight, almost implies it might not be Ezekiel.
Right.
It kind of seems like there's some third party that's
Right.
kind of entered the picture.
So this could be another Christ type of a thing. Again.
So like verse 9 kind of gets into, no, I'm sorry, not verse 9, chapter 9, like there's
Yeah.
a lot of talk about the man of linen.
Yeah, the thing is that 9, 2, and 11.
Yeah.
But he looks like a scribe. He looks like...
Even 3, verse 3 also talks
Yeah.
about it.
He appears in chapter 10, verse 6. But somehow there's this judgment. He's the deliverer of judgment. So now he enters his sight. It's almost kind of like he's off to the scene, off to the side. He's talked about, and all of a sudden he enters into his view.
But he's one of 6 men that are going to carry out the slaughter. So.
Yeah. Yeah, the difficulty is, I don't know if I want to call them the people from, the the people of judgment. So.
Yeah, if they were, it could be like the back to the angel thing, and they just incite the people.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
So, Kim, verse 3 is, now the cherub were standing on the right side of the temple when the man entered, and the cloud filled the inner court.
So the cherubim were outside of the temple, or just on the south side of the temple?
Yep.
And this man dressed in linen went into the temple, and the cloud, the inner court was filled with a cloud.
Do you remember any other times that the temple was filled with a cloud?
See it?
Kim?
Oh, sorry.
Or the tabernacle? Do you remember
Yes.
remember with Moses?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. When he went in, when the high priest went in, it would be filled with the smoke.
The cloud, but sometimes it would be filled, and they couldn't enter in.
Oh, they couldn't, because it meant that God was in there in the inner court.
In a certain vibrant way, like a intense way that they couldn't. Same thing happened in Kings. God showed His involvement with the temple by filling it with the cloud. So this is like a reverse picture. So when Solomon prayed, the temple was filled, and the priest couldn't minister because God showed His involvement. Now it's in reverse order. His presence is being shown, filling the temple, and He's leaving. So it's kind of a reverse. Because like in 1 Kings 8:11, it says, so the priest could not stand to minister because the cloud, for the glory of the Lord, had filled the house of the Lord. So this is a filling. Now all of a sudden it's filling as the man entered. So somebody is going in, the man, and it's filling. And he's going to take the coals and bring judgment. So,
is the inner court the Holy of Holies? Or is that just like the court where the altar was?
I think this is picturing the inner court. I mean the Holy of Holies. Or the whole thing as one. All right, Ann. She's getting her coat on. Must be getting cold. Then the glory of the Lord went up from the cherub to the threshold of the temple. And the temple was filled with the cloud, and the court was filled with the brightness of the glory of the Lord. What's happening?
I remember the story. God is slowly but surely coming and going out of the temple.
Yeah. So now he's going to the threshold.
Right.
and he's moving out, and this glory is showing it, and the cherub are what? Moving in this same pattern, because they center themselves around God's display,
Right.
just like pictured in the ark.
And threshold's like the front of the temple, right?
But,
Threshold?
yeah. Threshold is, the approach. Amy, however, the sound of the wings, this is Ezekiel 10:5, the sound of the wings of the cherub were heard as far as the outer court, like the voice of God Almighty when he speaks.
We kind of talked about this earlier. Like
Yep.
They were obviously moving.
Yep.
Again, the wings were making noise, so they were, again, bigger effective. They're leaving. They're going somewhere. They're not just sitting there straight up or down, not moving. They're
Right.
starting to move. And I think he was just trying to describe. You could hear it as far as the outer court, and it was like really loud.
Right. Yeah, the sound carried to the outer court. So, verse 6, Elisha, it says, it came about when he commanded the man clothed in linen, saying, take fire from between the whirlwind, from between the cherub. He entered and stood beside a wheel. You get another wheel here. Whirling wheels. I mean, we already know some of this already. Just some parts that are different.
Who's he?
The man clothed in the...
No, he commanded.
Yeah, who's he?
Yeah, okay.
Who's the one who commands?
God.
Yep, that's probably him commanding.
All right, I'll go with that. All right, so God
It's the Father's command. It seems like it could be pictured that Christ is on the throne and this linen person is Christ bringing about judgment. I don't know. It doesn't identify for us. But he's going to pick up what? He's getting close, right? And he entered and stood beside the wheel. He doesn't go in between the cherub, does he?
No.
Okay? Because we're going to find out this is what the cherub going to do in verse 7. And the cherub stretched out his hand from between the cherub to the fire which was between the cherubim, took some of it and put it in the hand of the one clothed in linen, who took it and went out. Paul.
I don't know. I skipped to verse 8. It's getting weird. All right. So the cherub stretched out his hand between the cherubim. So cherubim are all gathered around the fire thing. He reached between them, took some of the fire, and put it into the hands of the man clothed in linen. They go do.
So what is this? What could this picture, what the cherub do?
I mean, it just seems like they're connected to the organizing of God's wrath or justice.
Yep. They seem to be displays of his wrath or bringing about his wrath, and that's.
Like they're a conduit. They're one of the supply chains of how it gets to.
It doesn't seem like these people can just get inside. This man of linen has to wait for a hand, so it doesn't seem to be Christ.
Yeah.
It seems to be somebody else.
Yeah, so they've got. It seems like the four of them are charged with the responsibility.
Yep.
So they dish it out, they get back, they've got it under.
And this is what we'll find out in Revelation, that they hand out judgment as well, the cherub do. But we haven't got there yet.
So when it said in verse 2, it says, go fill your hands with burning coals. It's just telling them what they're supposed to do. This is how it actually happens.
Yeah, this is how it actually happens. He's commanded to go get it, and then he comes beside the wheel, and then the cherub scoops it up, which means he has one hand to scoop up this, hands it to the man outside the wheel area, and then he's going to take it. Because remember, he's told to scatter it around the city.
So that's not the actual
act.
Taking it and
No,
scattering.
that's the
This
command.
is what it's supposed to be. This is what you're going to do.
Yep.
He seems to be a different kind of man than it can handle fire.
Yeah. Yep.
Apparently you can play with fire and not get burned.
If you're the man in linen. Yeah.
It's the magic linen.
And then look at this detail right here, Dave. It says, Ezekiel 10:8, the cherub appeared to have the form of a man's hand under his wings, as opposed to what?
A hoof or anything other.
Right.
Sort of thing related to other four faces or something.
Right. He doesn't have a paw. He doesn't have a lion's paw. He doesn't have an eagle's claw. He doesn't have a...
And there's at least more than one.
Yeah.
So we don't know if there's 6 or just 2, but there's at least more than one.
Yeah.
And I assume it was similar to ours if he said it appears, but it's all the lightning and stuff going on, so I couldn't see too clear either.
I mean, this is pretty...
So he had a thumb to grasp.
Right. Exactly.
So there's no, I mean, I don't think there's any creatures that have a wing. They would have a wing and a claw. They wouldn't have a wing and, I'm thinking like a penguin. It's kind of got a wing and kind of got real feet.
Yeah.
Fish, but they're kind of flippy, and I can't think of an animal that would actually even be close to this.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything.
Yeah. I mean, I just think a pigeon doesn't bust out a hand like a otter,
Yeah. All right, Sue says, then I looked, and behold, 4 wheels beside the cherubim, 1 wheel beside each cherub. The appearance of the wheels was like the gleam of Tarshish stone. What's that one look like?
Okay, well, 4 wheels by the cherubim, 1 by each of them,
Yep.
and the wheels, I'm not sure, what is a Tarshish stone?
It's saying it's topaz. So,
Yeah.
like
Okay, so
topaz
like a-
mostly is blue, but it could be other colors too. It could be transparent, but blue topaz is the most common.
Okay. So it gleamed or shined like a blue stone?
So what happens is you see this gleaming, this blue, this kind of thing, and this scooping of this hand and passing it to this. So this is a pretty impressive scene, is it not?
Yes.
Yep. And the thing is that, think about this, they didn't treat the temple, very sacred, because they were doing all sorts of idolatry connected to the temple. They were crying for, Tomaz or whatever, some false god, so they didn't respect that God would cause His presence to dwell among them. And this is, in a sense, not what they couldn't see, but just the impressiveness that it pictured, the temple and the area. Closeness to God and all of its beauty. So, Susie, as for their appearance, all 4 of them had the same likeness, as if one wheel were within another wheel. I guess we got the same.
That's the same thing that I had before.
Yeah.
They all looked alike.
Yep.
And they had wheels intersecting each other.
Yep. Okay, Dan, it says, when they moved, they went any one of them 4 directions without turning as they went, and they, we see the whole body. Okay, here's the eye thing. You like this. 12, their whole bodies, their backs, their hands, their wings, their wheels were full of eyes all around, the wheels belonging to all 4 of them.
They are aware of everything.
They're aware of everything.
Inside, oversight, behind sight,
Yeah.
upside down sight, everywhere.
They never have a focus problem.
They see everything. Because knowledge,
20,
we're all-
20, 20, 20, 20.
Yeah, they're aware of what God is doing, they see.
They
It-
really do have eyes in the back of their head.
Yeah, and everywhere else. So,
Does this, you think the faces were covered with eyes, or
The
just the
wheels,
body?
just the bodies. It's
So the faces could have been more like
just the
normal,
2 eyes, yeah.
normal faces.
Now, with the wheels having eyes and the creatures having eyes, and each one kind of corresponding, would give, only are they aware they're aware of what each one's doing.
Yeah, they're aware of everything around that's associated with what God is doing. They're fully picturing everything. The wheels were called, this is great, we'll end with this. The wheels were called in my hearing whirling wheels. So they actually, somebody told them what the wheels were. Those are spinning wheels. That's what that means, rolling wheels. Either that or it's called, I have it here, galgal. That's the actual word means, galgal.
What does that mean?
It means whirling.
Whirling,
Okay.
whirling wheels. There's the actual word, but they could just describe them. Oh, those are these, whirling wheels. I mean, they're like locksmiths. They always describe things exactly. This is a follower through because it follows through. This is a door closer arm because this is just whirling wheels. So that's what they're called, whirling wheels. So, all right.